Okay, live streaming is on.
Yeah, cool. So this is our 13th session, which is actually quite an achievement. We have 13 sessions of our seminars, and some of you have been here for most of it. I guess Luca was here for all the sessions. Magno was here for most of the sessions. Gustavo was here for most of the sessions as well. I know he's checking all the videos, so we have our micro scene here connected to the seminars, and thanks again for being with us. So today's seminar is connected to this study group that appeared at Unirio at the university. Most of us are connected, like in a way or another. Some are students, some were students. One, actually, two of us are teachers. Yes. I'm counting Mike in as a teacher, even though he could not travel to Rio to work in person with us because of the whole COVID situation. We are speaking from 2020 for future reference. And we have a format which is different today than the formats of the last seminars, in which, of course, we were all having conversations during the seminars, but usually they were focused on a maximum of two people conducting the seminars, sort of like this, or one person conducting the seminar as a guest, and then this person, her ideas would trigger conversation between all of us. But today is a bit different than that, in that what we have as guests for today is a group of people, and I consider that many of there are many others that were or are part of this group and are not here at this moment, but it could be that they arrive at some point during the conversation, and if everything works, this is going to be sort of a reunion of sorts, and a conversation that will go around a sort of history of this group, which is something we never quite did prior to this opportunity. We never seriously, and I emphasize the word seriously, we never seriously talked about what we used to do. So this is actually a group that I'll do the intro. I'll start properly the introduction now, and it will take me like a little longer than usual, but I think it's important to cover some ground in order to prepare the conversations that we could have. So I guess it's okay to understand that. By the way, the name of the group, as it was like shared in the social media, is Prática de Conjunto de Música Experimental, which is actually the name of a syllabus at the university. It's actually a group praxis, a sort of a chamber music praxis. Okay, Mike, I got it. Yeah. Sort of a chamber music praxis, but it was focused on the study. It is focused on the study of experimental music. I'll try to explain a bit about it from now on. So it kind of started with a former student of Unirio. I would say that his name is José Ricardo Neto. I guess it was his idea that because he's sort of a world recordist in the experimental music, the topic. Like I used to teach. I teach, actually. I am responsible for the syllabus of experimental music at Unirio. And this guy, José Ricardo Neto, he kind of went to check on what was going on at this classroom, and he liked it so much that he repeated the música experimental like several times. Not that he was not he did not have the grades to just solve the topic, but he wanted to be there. Like, he worked as my assistant of experimental music as well. And at some point, because he was there like all the time, and he saw that I kept changing the subjects for each semester, he kind of approached me and proposed, oh, so why don't we go like to another stage of it? Why don't we form sort of a micro ensemble with whoever comes around to check experimental music, and I don't know, why don't we play the classics? Like, the classics would be like Terry Riley. We were going to study John Cage. We were going to try to implement algorithms in order to play Alvin Lucier, this sort of stuff, right? So it's in this context that I think the first instantiation of the idea occurred. And I can't quite remember the year it happened, but it was a group that, besides José Ricardo, had in its personnel Lucas Cassano, which is here with us today. We also had people like Henrique Machado, which is another colleague of ours. We also had Thiago Sobral, which is like, I consider to be like a fantastic person. He is a cinema director. We had the opportunity to play a live soundtrack to one of his movies as a part of our presentations. It was like quite a moment in my memory. We also had like this very interesting person called Antonio Brito, which at that point he just appeared at the class. He is not a student from Unirio. He was a student from UFRJ, the other federal university in Rio, but he was not at the music department. He was at the astronomy department at that time. Then later he shifted his course to mathematics, and he has like this huge interest in music. And he kind of out of nowhere, actually, I think he was checking the other extension project at that time, the Fábrica de Sons Eletrônicos, and he knew about música experimental, and he just showed up. And we had him for he was with us for the remainder of the semester. I also remember a concert we did at the then abandoned building that became the cafeteria of the Campi cluster that we have nowadays, connecting like the social sciences campus and then the computer science campus, the music campus, the theater and literature campus. There is a cafeteria there. At that point, it was an abandoned building. We could just like occupy it. I mean, it's even in the spirit of those years. We kind of, there was an occupation at this building, and we kind of made a concert there with pieces written by everyone in the group in order to present our short time occupation of the building. So I consider this to be maybe the first instantiation of the group, right? So I guess a couple of years later, maybe 2 or maybe 1 year later, this same guy, José Ricardo, he and Pedro, who is here with us today, Pedro Garcia, they just approached me and said, "Oh, do you remember we did that at some point? So we want to do it again. We want you to sign chamber praxis time for us, so that we can study experimental music, but in a more practical, with a focus on a more practical dimension of it. We are going to play music, but we do not only want this. We do not only want you to sign it for us and then disappear. We want you to be a part of the group and play with us, because it's kind of common, right? You have this space which is called like the chamber music praxis, and then you need a teacher to sign it for a group of students that could work independently. I think this is actually quite good. But they asked me if I could join them to be a part of the group. And I interpreted that as, okay, this is actually good, because I'm going to like to be able to play some music as well, and I'll try my best to really be a part of the group. I mean, to try to make it as horizontal as possible, the way I can, right? And then I think this is the point at where things like where the main ideas that drives us today are. This is the point where these ideas started, I guess. So at that point, it was 2017, the second semester. We had Pedro, José Ricardo, I, and then Jessica Marinho joined us. She won't be able to be here today because she's working. Like she has a ton of work to do. The closer friends know what is going on. Like as with many people, Jessica is like working really hard nowadays. So as I said, the idea was that this was going to be focused on the study of experimental music. At the first moment, it was like more focused on theory. We are going to talk about it in a minute. And then we started at that point. Some ideas came out of the meetings. We started to prepare for us what we nowadays call sort of our rituals, right? Which are pieces, musical pieces, but they are like They are kind of organized, I would say, like that, rather than composed. They are organized by everyone. It's sort of a list of constraints that you go like changing it, and they changed a lot throughout the years. We are going to talk about it as well. But we call them, well, we refer to them as our rituals, I would say. We have scores for them. This is actually something that happened from a second moment on. Then Luca joined us. It was the first semester of 2018. One of the main ideas in which we focused on at that point was, those rituals of ours, maybe we should try to dedicate some time to somehow document them, like to try to propose some scores for it. But and this is a fantasy that we shared at that point. The idea was that those documents, they would be available to whoever appeared for the next iterations of the group, so that we were aiming, like in our fantasies, like we were aiming at building a sort of a community, right? That had its own rituals. It's not actually a musical work. It would be something that the next iterations of the group would be allowed to change as well. It would be something that would be composed or organized, so to speak, like in the following years by whoever approached the group and had like interest in doing so, right? Then at that point, we made the first version of one of our rituals, which I think is the most consequent. I will use this word. It's the most consequent one. This is called barulhão, which in English we would translate it as big noise, or I don't know, we could try to find a word like to give the impact that barulhão has. It would be like something that, I don't know, dirtier, noisier. We would have to invent something to guarantee the impact. But big noise would be like, it's actually funny to say it in English, big noise. It would be like the literal translation of it. Yes. So at 2000, of course, we followed studying what we refer to as like traditional repertoire, which is not traditional. I don't know if it's traditional at all, but mainly for a series of reasons, one of the most important influences on what we were doing by then is Wandelweiser, which for the record is like a group of international artists, composers, performers, musicologists, writers, whatever, that coarsely follow on the paths of 4 minutes and 33 from John Cage as a paradigmatic case. I mean, I'm referring to Michael Pissarro's text. I think this is a good way to like briefly describe what is going on with Wandelweiser, right? So José Ricardo, this guy, which is like our motor, and he's not here today. He got in touch with one of Wandelweiser's members, and I guess it was Jörg Frey, who is also, if I'm not mistaken, responsible for the Wandelweiser editions as well. He's one of the responsible ones.
The main person is Antoine Boiger.
Yes, maybe, yeah. Actually, Zé Ricardo has a huge interest in Frei's work, but he contacted Boiga, I would say. And then Boiga was super friendly with Zé Ricardo, like shared with Zé Ricardo like tons of material. We even had this inner joke of ours that Zé Ricardo is now a member of Wandelweiser. Like, and then I mean, we could play like we could experiment also upon several scores connected to the Wandelweiser movement. I will quote some of them. For instance, Eva Maria Hauben, La Solemnité de Silence. We could play some of the pieces from Harmony series from Pizarro. And so this was like very important for us as reference. There are many others. For instance, I think it's an important reference for this group. Some of the important references for this group are like the Scratch Orchestra, the Marginal Consort, also the Shags, also Portsmouth Symphonia. It's also a place where we can exercise, I would say, at least I'll be responsible for my part. We can confidently exercise our bad taste in humor. We will try to illustrate that later.
Just a quick question, Paolo. As you guys evolved, did you stop playing, kind of music from the canon of, the experimental classics, or did you continue doing that, or what did it kind of evolve into this group composition practice?
Yeah. Luca has a joke about it. At one of our meetings, he said, "Oh, we used to read texts at some point because later on we were just driving our own ways, and what this means is that some of our meetings we were pretty much just talking about I don't know, whatever, or like making connections of references or sharing with each other what we did during the week." I mean, it started to become something more loose and more keen to this community idea. I would say it kind of became less of a class as it went on, and started becoming more of and this could also be criticized, I think, but I think it's an interesting idea. It kind of became more and more a group of people who, I don't know, I'll be responsible for my part as well, again, who like each other and who has kinship in music praxis. But we were to be credited at the end of the semester, right?
I think maybe at the end of the session, maybe it'd be nice to. I've had similar experiences actually going into school, and it's kind of nice to hear how these things kind of independently evolve. So I can maybe later down the line share some very, very similar experiences that are kind of simply encouraging of this type of doing stuff. Just remind me, because I will forget.
Yes, we will do it. And I'm towards the end of the introduction. I'm almost there. I think I said.
I meant later.
Yes. I think I said most of it, but it would be good also to share some remarks on the part that we played as a group into each other's graduation tracks, because for instance, I know that for Amanda's conclusion graduation work, we performed as a part of her final graduation work presentation. With Pedro, it's the same thing. We were there playing like this huge theatrical music ritual that he, like, anthropological, I don't know how to call it, that he created and invited the group. I even think that invited is misleading, in the sense that I think the group is a part of what this presentation was. We were also a part of, obviously, the final graduation presentation for José Ricardo. We played there as well, even because his graduation, and this is kind of rare, I think, in our group of people, and this is one point I think it's like very interesting about about this group, is that José Ricardo, if I'm not mistaken, is the only composition student of the group. The remainder of the group comes from other courses, and they were all there by some reason. I'm talking about from the second iteration on. I know that Lucas Cassano is a if I'm not mistaken, he's graduating in composition as well. But from the second iteration on, we had like José Ricardo completing the graduation in composition, and that's it. The remainder of the group comes from other courses, right? And then I think I covered the main ideas, right? I don't know if I left anything out of the conversation, but I think everything that we could talk about is introduced, right? And then let's bring the conversations on. So you're here with Luca, with Pedro, with Amanda, with Lucas, to try to share some ideas about it.
I would be kind of curious how each person got there, the kind of impact it had once you found this kind of oasis of playing music together.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think Paulo also has this, it's kind of the group of like the misfits somehow of the university. And we kind of joke that Paulo has corrupted us and corrupted our views in music. But the most funny thing is that it's actually not. Everyone that got there was kind of already corrupted in this way. And it's very interesting because, I don't know, everybody somehow found this way there in different trajectories. For me personally, it was I studied music education, and it was very, I don't know, I came from playing jazz, but not being feeling very inside it, or very, kind of have some questions there. And I don't know, I found this through Faculdade de Sons Eletrônicos and through Música Experimental, the class, found this world, and joined the group in its second semester, and it became kind of very central to my graduation trajectory. And yeah, I think it's very, very, the rest can speak, but this sort of happenstance of, okay, we kind of met there, and everyone found its way kind of funly,
Are many of you guys still playing music together?
Yeah.
Like in the context of this, or would you also, or the other question would be, is this, does this like extend, like where were you guys doing some of the events? Like, were you doing it outside of the university setting at all?
I think we'll touch upon this as well, but okay, Pedro can speak.
Yeah, we have a project now, a little bit stopped, but we think about a Zoom presentation, yeah? Amanda has this idea of a musical or dramatic piece to cover in Zoom, and we are thinking about this. Not a little bit slowly, but we are thinking about this.
The group goes on even after everybody left the Unihil, and some kind of other groups kind of spawn from this group. So there's some projects that are more personal, they are very connected to this space. I think that is Do you want to show some pictures, Paulo, because you mentioned a lot of already like the graduations, and there's some funny pictures there.
I mean, maybe Amanda, do you want to speak anything? Then Lucas, do you want to speak anything? I mean, because like Luca and Pedro just shared some ideas and what?
I don't know. Okay, I'm going to try. As I said before, it's hard to me to talk in English. So
if you like, speak Portuguese. We have no rules here about what language.
Okay, so I'm gonna try in English, and then if that's hard, I can speak in Portuguese. Okay?
Vamos misturar tudo. Acho que
vamos, por
favor. boa oportunidade.
Vamos.
Tá. Mas aí eu falo o quê? Inglês ou português agora?
mistura.
Então, eu vou falar em português. Eu não sei agora. Eu não sei, tá? Eu vou falar em português, aí vocês são bem fluentes em inglês, vocês me ajudam a traduzir. Eu entrei no grupo, se não me engano, em 2018.2, mas foi uma entrada meio... Não exatamente, porque eu fazia uma outra aula no mesmo horário, inclusive com Arthur Campela. E aí eu tive uma pouca experiência de imersão, porque eu tinha que ficar, sei lá, meia hora, uma hora no máximo, e sair correndo para outra aula. Enfim. E aí em 2019.1 foi quando eu entrei, assim, oficialmente. E é muito doido para mim, porque eu entrei na faculdade sem ter qualquer contato, eu nem sabia que existia essa coisa, né, de música experimental, eu não sabia, enfim. E aí eu fui conhecer na universidade mesmo, e eu acho que a minha primeira experiência com música experimental foi no grupo, meio tímida, né, porque sempre, como eu não tive contato antes, sempre tinha aquela insegurança de não ter referência, de não ter um background, né? Misturar inglês e português, de não ter esse background. Mas foi com um grupo que eu comecei a ter experiência e pesquisar. E também, paralelo à minha entrada no grupo, eu fui aceita numa residência artística do Oi Futuro e do British Council. E lá eu conheci uma residência só de mulheres na música, mulheres da música e do som. E lá eu conheci uma amiga minha, que hoje a gente tem uma banda junta, e ela trabalhava com performance e música experimental, e eu já fazia muita performance na Unihil mesmo. E aí eu comecei a misturar. Tem a Jéssica também, óbvio, a influência da Jéssica, que não pôde estar presente hoje. A gente fez um espetáculo em 2017, também foi um dos começos do meu contato com música experimental. E aí, quando no grupo eu aprofundei isso, e aí hoje eu tenho uma banda de música experimental chamada Powerpuff Girls Sound. E é uma banda que mistura, enfim, performance e mistura som e, enfim, um monte de coisa. E então eu aprendi muito, muito nesse contato, assim, que foi um dos meus primeiros contatos, né? E aí, eu não sei, o Lucas quer falar alguma coisa?
Não, posso falar. I guess I try to speak English also. I don't know if it's been a little while that speak English, but if I can't, I speak Portuguese like Amanda. But like Paulo said, I was part of the first iteration of the group, and we were studying like forms of producing scores that were non-conventional. And remember, we were studying James Tenney, and I remember that the piece I produced was a text like the piece of James Tenney, and a quote also of James Tenney, especially the arc that he produced in his piece, and talking about what you said. If we presented in different occasions the piece, it was something that for me personally, other than the presentations that we did on class, it was something that I could present in theaters with, because the idea of the piece, I took it and outside choreographed with dancers, and went like on a mini tour in Rio, and it was nice, and also in Unirio, in UFRJ, and it was a piece produced by the study of the non-conventional scores, non-conventional forms of doing music, and that, I don't know, became sort of choreography, I would say.
It's cool that you mentioned the Tenney reference. The piece, if I'm not mistaken, was Having Never Written a Note for Percussion,
Yes.
with the swell, like the paradigm of swell, which is a figure so important for Tenney. Mike has a lot to say about Tenney. It's nice that you mentioned the reference, because Mike was a student of James Tenney. Actually, I think he was more than a student. He was a close friend from James Tenney, and he now works on Tenney's works, writings, materials. Right, Mike? Is it? Am I being correct here, or?
I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thiago, você tá por aí?
And isn't there a pun as well, or a joke as well, in the title of the piece? I can't remember this story.
Yeah,
No, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's truthful. I think the joke is he had actually never written a note for percussion before that.
No, but in the Lucas piece, what is the name of the piece?
Oh, actually, that's funny.
Because my piece is a quote, is having never written so many notes for percussion, because I took the idea of the arc, but it has literally so many notes. The piece.
Okay, that's nice. That's super nice. Yeah. Did you know about his piece? His piece is kind of, I think it's a joke too. That
okay.
I think, yeah, he hadn't written a note for percussion before that.
Yeah, because I think this kind of humor and this, I remind me of the pun in Magnus' piece that was mentioned before. I think this kind of humor is very, very exemplary of what we do somehow. I don't know. It's not like Magno or Lucas did this consciously in this context, but it's like it kind of shows up in everything that we do, and it's very interesting for me.
Yes, I would say that we went beyond this level of humor that is displayed, because it's not that I'm saying, oh, we transcended that. I think we kind of did really strange things, as we were talking about.
And I suppose I know this piece from Lucas. Yeah, I played it some occasions.
Yeah, like I said, it was very good, the experience, because it as a consequence, we presented a lot with other groups and other people, was a good experience. And because it is an open score, it provides the space for the musicians also to not be locked in the score mode, like a symphonic mode, and even me that are not them. I'm not a percussionist, or Pedro or Henrique, people that play the score, but it's very open to that also.
I think that's a really important statement, that there's all this music that kind of doesn't make the assumption that you have to have traditional musical background, but actually there's a really, in a kind of similar movement in Los Angeles. It's actually, when I wasn't there was a group that put on a set of series that said U2, it was called U2 Can Play Difficult Music. And my friend Joe Kadurka, who I've mentioned before in the seminars, he wrote this really beautiful, and they made a publication. He wrote this really beautiful 2-page article in it. And in it, he talks about like the new virtuosity, which is not about moving your hand quickly, but really more so about having an open mind and discovering and exploring music where you're kind of eliminating traditional hierarchies that are ubiquitous throughout a lot of music. I'd have to find what it's called, but I think it's something like the new virtuosity or new economics or something, because he also talks about not being a money, monger. But yeah, I mean, I again, it's kind of amazing to hear about this. So because there are similar trends in the U.S., and I took a similar course. It was a course at CalArts that was always taught every year by Michael Pizarro, called Experimental Music Workshop, and he really extended it from Christian Wolff, who had been doing something also similar for years at Dartmouth University. And now and I think that it's great to see that kind of like, yeah, I mean, these were all extending from the Scratch Orchestra and groups that came together like that, automatically and autonomously. And it's just wonderful to see these independent histories kind of similarly popping up. And that's also, like Amanda was saying, that's also where I was introduced to a lot of music that I had not known before, that I really gravitated towards.
This is actually what the next topic, right? The references, some of the references that we were in contact with. You just mentioned another one, which was Christian Wolff, right? Like, one of my most fond memories of the activities of the group was like at one evening like Pedro, José Ricardo, and we had like this 2-hour meeting. The first hour we dedicated to searching stones in the campus of the university. And it had, like, in my memory, it was a very atmospheric moment in which we were separated from each other, like just listening to the surroundings and finding our instruments, right? And then we just returned to the room and started to play stones, which I consider to be a classic, like, but without speaking to each other, right? We just entered the room and there was already someone there. I guess I was the first one to arrive. I was already doing something, and then people came in and just started to play as well.
Eu queria falar algo, só que em português.
Fale algo em português.
Seguindo a tendência da Amanda, espero que seja tranquilo pro Michael
claro.
entender. Mais ou menos dar um depoimento, assim como ela deu, né, de como foi como que a experiência com o grupo transformou minha carreira musical, enfim, né? Eu conheci inicialmente o Paulo tendo aula sobre sonatas de Beethoven, então foi uma coisa muito curiosa. Assim, foi um lado do Paulo bastante diferente do que estamos habituados, né? E eu era uma pessoa que gostava, continuo gostando, na verdade, mas gostava muito das obras de Beethoven e dos clássicos antigos, enfim. Né? E na minha carreira musical eu nunca fui apresentado a nada diferente disso. Não sabia sequer que existia algum tipo de desenvolvimento artístico diferente desse cânone branco anglo-saxão, enfim, da música, né? E curiosamente essa experiência com o José Ricardo, ele é uma pessoa muito agregadora, sempre foi, né? É uma pessoa assim que tem a capacidade de reunir pessoas mais diferentes e todos ficarem encantados com ele, né? Com a gentileza dele, com o que ele tinha a oferecer em termos de informação, enfim, de incentivo. Ele teve esse desejo muito grande e eu logo adorei esse desejo, assim, de explorar um repertório que era até mais próximo dele do que de mim. Eu, enquanto, sei lá, um estudante de regência, eu me formei em regência na Unirio. E, então, assim, algo completamente... Adentrei num repertório completamente distinto do que eu estava acostumado. E foi, na verdade, algo muito, muito valioso para o meu encaminhamento futuro, assim, em termos de compositor e atualmente mais professor, na verdade. Esse contato com esse repertório me fez entender outras abordagens do fazer musical, abordagens contemporâneas que acho que fazem todo sentido, assim, e que permanecem num nicho, né? Assim, nós somos, na verdade, um dos nichos do cenário musical, né? Parece que somos tão engavetados e não nos comunicamos muito bem com esses cenários, mas, enfim, a experiência do grupo foi, assim, bem transformadora nesse sentido de abrir novos horizontes e de realmente mudar a minha prática musical. Tanto que eu me formei em regência fazendo um recital de formatura não oficial em composição também, né? Fiz uma peça que eu chamo de aventura, uma fantasia revisionista, uma peça para o grupo, assim, que eu idealizei para o grupo e utilizando de elementos das peças que a gente estudou com o grupo, ou seja, a gente vai aprofundar isso mais para frente, acredito, mas assim, usando questões da notação verbal, né, de uma partitura expandida, de mesclar questões performáticas com questões musicais. Então, enfim, já que a Amanda encabeçou essa iniciativa de aprofundar as palavras num idioma mais tranquilo, eu resolvi seguir os passos dela.
Tem uma coisa curiosa, eu acho, que eu até apontei na introdução, né? Que é a maior parte dos membros do grupo não tem uma formação oficial em composição, né? Na universidade, né? Mas todos têm um interesse em criação e eu creio que acho que para ser justo com a história de todo mundo, né? Acho que todo mundo encontrou no grupo uma forma de escoar esse interesse em criação que já existia, né? Mas não necessariamente vinculado ao nome composição, né? Isso eu acho curioso. Uma outra coisa que eu acho interessante é que, como o Pedro falou, Pedro vem lecionando, vem ministrando aulas, né? Trabalha como professor. E eu creio que é um pouco também um interesse comum. Aí, assim, para ser justo, por uma série de razões, né? Porque quase assim, em termos mercadológicos, é o que há, né? Mas eu acho que há alguma outra coisa também, né, nos integrantes do grupo. Eu não sei se tem a ver com alguma questão comunicativa, que eu acho que todo mundo meio que tem em comum, mas todo mundo acaba demonstrando algum interesse em dar aulas também. Não sei, posso estar enganado, estou pensando em voz alta aqui.
Eu sou formada em licenciatura, né? Então, inicialmente, na real, assim, eu acho que comigo tem sido um caminho meio que inverso, talvez. Eu entrei em licenciatura e eu não conhecia, assim, eu morava, né, longe da Unirio, não tinha contato com esse meio, né? Então, eu entrei lá achando que eu só poderia dar aula e que para fazer música eu teria que dar aula e ponto. E aí lá eu entendi que eu poderia fazer várias coisas e não só dar aula. Então agora eu sou formada, né, em licenciatura, mas o que eu menos faço é dar aula. Eu tenho participado muito mais assim, compondo e enfim, em outros lugares que não dá aula. É óbvio que eu me interesso, assim, eu tenho dado aula mais em projetos tipo Girls Rock Camp, que é um projeto, enfim, de empoderamento de mulheres, meninas e mulheres através da música, participei de outros projetos também, mas é muito mais voltada para incentivar a criação, né? Então, eu meio que fui para o caminho inverso. Eu comecei achando, não, eu vou só dar aula, vou dar aula, e eu acabei, né, no final já foi outra coisa, assim. Tanto que o meu mestrado não é em educação. E também, o que eu quero tentar também não é em educação, não tem nada a ver com educação.
I will keep it in English just to practice because it's a good opportunity. But I'm kind of partial there because I study music education in the school, and my graduation thesis is kind of exactly about this intersection between sound art or experimental music and education. And I actually my personal view is that there is a lot of disconnection in this kind of practices and aesthetics of some kind of more open practices. And I just say, okay, you don't need to be super trained technically in the canon or anything. It's very more about the relation and about the group and about so I would say there's a lot of intersection in for me at least, in interest between this kind of work and these attitude towards sound and music and some education practices in that. It's a lot of methodological need as well, of course, but I think aesthetically and conceptually there's a lot of connection there, or I like to make this connection.
I've learned a lot by just playing these types of pieces.
Yeah, to me,
I had a question for Amanda, actually, if I understood correctly. You had, before you were saying you had an interest about studying women in music. Did you also have an interest in performance art before you experienced some of the music that was being played in the group, or did that develop through these communications?
I had some works I did before the group, but one in special with another member, Jessica, as I said, we did together a piece I don't know if I can call a piece or it's a espetáculo. Como é que é espetáculo em inglês?
It's more like a, it's
Spectacle.
more like a concert.
Spectacle, okay. Call, I don't know if I can translate in English. In Portuguese, is todo furacão tem nome de mulher. Like every hurricane has a female name. And she started to study experimental music before me. And when I met her, it's hard to talk in English. She taught me a lot. Then we did 5 pieces on in this spectacle. Eu não sei falar essa palavra, espetáculo.
Eu posso entender-te mais ou menos bem.
Okay.
With Pedro, I had a little bit of trouble because it was fast, and I know that Paulo is speaking slow for me.
Okay, I can speak slow, but I can try in English. I'm gonna try. So we did this espetáculo, and she taught me a lot about experimental music, and I could compose for the pieces, and then we mix performance art and experimental music. It was the first time I did this. Before this, I did some performances, but not with experimental music. And then I started to study this more, and it became more present in my life. And as I said, now I have a band of noise experimental music with 2 other women, and we sort of mix performances and acting and this stuff. But I guess the experience with the group gave me more background to study and to do what I do now. I don't know.
No, I mean, that's good for me to hear, and also with Luca, to say, well, to be curious. Like, I know how those types of situations have influenced me, but it's very nice to hear, like, Luca kind of saying, oh, well, I understand actually now that there was this very deep intrinsic connection between education and what I'm doing. So I guess I am curious about these stories of the influence and how that propagates into your current practice. Also things that were one of the questions I asked earlier was kind of like the people I remember actually at Cal Arts where I did my master's, they had really actually those people who I met there became my lifelong friends and musical collaborators. I still play music, now 15 years later with these people. And there's something about the people that you meet in specific times in your life. I had another round, for example, when I was traveling in South America, when I got to integrate with meet people with like Paulo. So that was, you kind of have these waves, but these people stick around your life forever. And that's an exciting thing to see. So I guess reflecting now, kind of being nostalgic on my own experiences and what I learned in those types of situations, it's kind of also refreshing to hear that everybody has kind of very diverse and unique experiences. So I like to hear that. And actually, I would then extend the question with, now that this is extending onwards, kind of beyond the bounds of the initial meeting, I'd be also curious, the transition, kind of coming out of it just being a curricular activity, so not only also how it's influenced you kind of in your academic practice, but how how have you defined, and I think Amanda kind of answered it for herself, how have you defined your own practice afterwards? You know, in the sense that what are you doing now that you haven't done before? And how has looking at this other work or this other practice, how has this kind of study of performance practice influence that? Because I think one thing that was really important for me, you know, I took, like many of you, I took this same course by Michael Bizzarro, the same trend of experimental music workshop. Every time was different theme, different music, and I learned a lot. And I also would say that actually at the time that I was studying with James Tenney, for example, at CalArts, I made a point to really immerse myself in that music. And in fact, I would say that a lot of my music from that time was really reflective of that. I would almost say that it was derivative, you know, and I think that's important. It's really important to internalize your influences and to really study. Nobody should ever be ashamed of that. But it really wasn't only after having some time to reflect afterwards and then to, you know, and then these things extended. There's like, for example, the Dog Star Orchestra is a really wonderful extension of the experimental music workshop in the classroom to a performance series out in the Los Angeles area. But I realized that after I left, you know, to sum up, you know, it was really the time that I had to reflect upon that where I really started to feel like I was making, quote unquote, my own music. And it was totally because of that, you know, because of those experiences that I was able to, quote unquote, find myself a bit better but still internalize my influences, but in a way that created a new product of, you know, of the mess of everything that I had learned, you know, as opposed to this time when I was a student where I was really trying to mimic, you know, the legends that became so important to me. So maybe people have not had similar experience, but you know, again, maybe just when you got, that's something I'm curious to know also about your experiences.
Yeah, I think that is for me at least, is the current challenge. I think for all of us as a group and as individuals, like, I haven't left. I'm still in the last semester, but most of the group has left, and yeah, how do we keep playing? We said that we are working on this piece for online playing, but yeah, how are we working on that, and how do we keep this collaboration without the UniRio to support us, and how we and ourselves, how we continue this trend in artistic interest beyond that? I think that is very current for us and very present in our minds. I don't know, at least for me, this is how I view it.
Eu sinto que o contato que eu tive com a música experimental e, sei lá, a última produção de composição que eu fiz na UniRio, eu consigo enxergar reflexos do que a gente aprendeu e com o que eu desenvolvi como uma linguagem própria. Também consigo enxergar uma série de questões que eu já gostava antes, que não tem absolutamente nada a ver com música experimental, que também, de alguma forma, confluíram na experiência. Então, assim, eu creio que agora com uma distância higiênica de, sei lá, 1 ano que isso aconteceu, eu enxergo que vários elementos que certamente não estariam presentes no meu fazer musical a partir de então, se eu não tivesse tido contato com o repertório experimental, por exemplo.
Eu acho que uma coisa que, para mim, foi uma das mais importantes nesse período, porque não adianta você ter contato com alguma coisa quando você não é influenciado tipo assim, você encontra um local de acolhimento para poder criar sem nenhum julgamento. E eu sempre, o que eu falei, eu nunca me enxerguei como uma compositora, e agora eu já me enxergo. E muito se dá porque nesse espaço que a gente construiu, a gente mostra as nossas criações e dá ideias e não recebe um julgamento, porque a academia, a universidade pode ser um lugar que é bastante... que pode tolir muito enfim, os seus impulsos criativos. E o que eu acho muito interessante nesse grupo é que, por exemplo, agora eu sou a única mulher que está presente aqui, eu não me sinto de forma alguma intimidada ou qualquer coisa como eu me senti em alguns grupos da universidade. E o que eu acho muito interessante isso é esse local de acolhimento, de acolher as criações e acolher isso, embarcar nas ideias, você dá uma ideia e as pessoas comprarem essa ideia. Então, para mim foi também uma das coisas muito importantes nesse grupo, porque é isso, eu acho que não adianta ter só várias referências, legal, mas e o espaço também de incentivar a criação. Então, eu também enxergo muito isso, assim, esse espaço receptivo para você criar enfim.
Isso é muito, muito legal, né? Eu acho que é bem isso que o Paulo falou de criar uma comunidade, que tipo, primeiro as nossas aulas, as próprias aulas não são, às vezes a gente só vai lá comer alguma coisa e bater um papo sobre nada, mas também fora das aulas a gente é amigo, então tem todo esse afeto, todo esse apoio fora da aula também. Isso meio que se transforma... E fora da música mesmo, assim, uma coisa pessoal, ponto. Não precisa passar para a música necessariamente. Então meio que tem realmente essa criação de um grupo no sentido mais comunitário e de relações do que a gente é uma banda que toca isso, a gente estuda isso. Acho isso muito, muito legal. Assim. Eu também sinto isso totalmente, né, com a gente.
É engraçado também, eu só vou mencionar aqui que Gustavo e Pedro Fadel, eles, se nós estivéssemos num período normal, eles certamente fariam parte de uma nova iteração do grupo, junto com o Luca e com o Gabriel Dargães, né, que já veio assistir alguma outra sessão do seminário, mas que não está aqui hoje também, né? Então, é bem engraçado notar esse fluxo de pessoas, né? Mas como a gente tem alguma... É interessante o formato, né? Assim, nem todo mundo se forma, mas as pessoas continuam se inscrevendo nos cursos. Então, isso garante que algumas pessoas deixem o grupo, como foi o caso do Pedro e do Jorge no final do ano passado, mas o Luca e o Dargães permanecem, aí entra o Gustavo e o Fadel, e de alguma forma isso garante uma manutenção, mas também uma mudança, né? E hoje tá todo mundo meio que aqui junto, né? Tem uma questão com afinidade que eu acho que é bem curiosa, que eu acho que eu só vou entender melhor também daqui a um tempo, assim, porque é relativamente novo, jovem o grupo, né? Tem o quê? Contando com a primeira versão, tem o quê? Uns 5 anos? 4? 5, né?
A segunda versão tem 3 anos só. E aí tem esse intervalo e a primeira versão. Então é bem recente mesmo.
Deve ser uns 5 anos, alguma coisa. E um depoimento pessoal que eu tenho é que que esse grupo, que começa como uma disciplina e se transforma em alguma outra coisa, é uma das coisas das quais eu mais gosto ali dentro do meu trabalho na universidade, né? Porque justamente por conta desse caráter mais aberto que a gente tenta dar à coisa, né? Porque eu acho que é em uma situação como essa que as coisas podem ser mais francas, né? Mais honestas, eu acho. Uma coisa que eu prezo muito. Né?
I think go ahead.
Okay. I was going to ask, how do you choose like a repertoire for a semester of a experimental music practice? Because I did with Paulo the theoretical, the regular experimental music, and I think it's really nice that there's not like a fixed subject that it changes every semester. So I was curious to know like how is the process of choosing like a repertoire for a semester of this practice?
Well, I guess that's for Paolo. I can tell you, I mean, my experiences, but I think Paolo would similarly have an answer. But one thing I'll just say that, you know, at Cal Arts, really, Michael Pizarro was the guru, you know, in a way. And he's very influential. You see people, you know, coming in with no experimental music experience and then leaving, you know, as, you know, doing kind of the Wandelweiser thing, which I am actually also, I think everyone should be a little skeptical of, even though I'm very close with Michael and Manfred, and these are people I respect a whole lot. What I can say, though, is actually the way I was about to interrupt you, but you fed me what I was going to say anyway. First off, Michael always had like a set of pieces that we would do, and they changed from semester to semester. And that class, like, it sounds like what you guys were doing was a bit more open format, which probably has its pros and its cons. But Michael really had a set repertoire every term, and the end product was always a concert of that music. And the class was really, you could say, dedicated to the practice of performing, the performance practice of experimental music. And in that sense, it was also very important because before that, there wasn't as much of a practice. I mean, there were these really, there were the people, the kind of founding fathers and mothers of it, you know, people like David Tudor, who, you know, really established a performance practice. But this was a setting where it was kind of passed on, that information. What happened actually a few years down the road, because Michael was hired first in 1999, I went to Cal Arts in 2003. So it wasn't that, it was about maybe the same stage of where you guys are at. He started this thing called the Dog Star Orchestra. And what the Dog Star Orchestra was, this idea, you know, it's kind of like the Scratch Orchestra in the sense that you had generation after generation of people who had been through the experimental music workshop, which was an academic thing, ultimately. But here it extended into a summer concert series that at first Michael really curated, but it was an opportunity for everyone to play their own music, but really at first with large forces, because you really did have an orchestra, because you had had so many generations of people coming out of this. So that kind of answers two things. It's like, well, one, Michael really had for the experimental music workshop, you know, groups of pieces. Sometimes they weren't the pieces that you performed in concert. It was kind of leading up to it. But it was like sometimes we would focus on, you know, Alison Knowles or Fluxus, and other times there was like strictly a Jim Tenney concert, or, you know, so there were kind of these themes that kind of said, okay, we're going to look at this type of thing. But then where that extended out is that the Dog Star Orchestra, while at first was curated by Michael, then became kind of curated by the community. So it became a mix of people in the community's work, along with a lot of the people were performers strictly. So they weren't necessarily composers that needed to play their own work. So then they would get the group together to play, say they found some composer in who knows where, or, it's like, oh, I've been playing this piece by Christian. I'd like to do it, needs more people. So it really became an orchestra. Unfortunately, that's changed a little bit now because you had a large group of people, and that extended into the Los Angeles community.
Yeah, in the specific case of the Unirio classes with which I'm involved, I think most of you know kind of how I try to proceed. This changed over the years as well. I think I was more strict teacher and person at some point. What I mean by that, I usually came to the classroom as prepared as I could to run the material, let's say like that, but also trying to leave even then room for the conversations to appear. So even though I was speaking about, I don't know, Brian Ferneyhough, I'm referring to something I used to do like 12 years ago. At some point, someone would raise her hand and say, oh, but this is not music, right? And I would take the time to, I think this is the kind of I was really interested in those kinds of conversation. But usually, at some point, I would defend. Oh no, but of course this is music because of no. I think I was more prepared, like with the material I had in hand. Nowadays, I think gradually what happened is that I feel less and less strictly prepared for a specific class and more prone to accept diversions that appear during the classes. Of course, this is the kind of thing that usually works with classes which are not so big. If you have like 5 people in the room, I feel really comfortable to go there and think, oh, what do we have as a framework? We have the name of the syllabus. So the name of the syllabus is experimental music. This is what we are going to talk about. But of course, I mean, I have a set of pieces and authors which I know better because I'm personally interested or involved with their ideas, and if I have to start a conversation. If people enter the room, it's the first class, and they are there, expecting me to talk about something. Of course, I will talk about a certain repertoire, But ideally, what happens is that by the third encounter, everyone is like, oh, but this reminds me of X. And then, okay, let's talk about X. What do you have to say? Why does it remind you of X? And then people throw things on the table, and I try to make connections from that point on. Oh, so you brought X. Have you ever heard this? Have you ever heard that? Do you know the work of X? Do you know that there is this person like in Malaysia doing this thing? And then a third person like raises their hand or just speak out loud. Oh, I know this. Actually, there is this text. Also, let's read this text for the next meeting, or I don't know. I remember that lesson again, right? This is actually a very good example. We were supposed to talk about, I don't know, a certain topic of experimental music. It was a class with people from very different backgrounds. So I adopted the stance of, okay, so this should be like greatest hits of experimental music. And then I brought, I don't know, Anya Lockwood, and then I brought Kid Speech Soundwalk, and we have lots of things to talk about it. But then there was this day in which only Gustavo appeared at the room, and then he was there. So what, man? What are you going to talk about today? And then obviously I started to drive things east, and we ended up like having this very weird meeting about Japanese pop culture. So yeah, another Japanese example. This is how, I mean, I think this is a good example of if I have to decide. Of course, I'll bring the most comfortable topics or the repertoire that I know better, or the ideas that I've been currently studying. But I prefer the situations in which we can have a conversation about what appears. And I think this is also a way to kind of bring back the topic to the group, because at the first iterations of the group, we were studying repertoire. Like, oh, let's play this piece, this, and this. Let's read this text and this, and let's talk about this other video, and so and so and so. But as time went by, I think everyone was like really connected in such a way that, okay, what do we have for today? Oh, so what do you think about doing this? Oh, so let's do this. Like, you know, like, I mean, years. I think it's not too many, but we have already like 3 to 4 years working together. I think now it's that kind of situation which I really like, in which I consider myself to be a lazy person. I don't need. We have come to a point in which I don't really need to stay there all the time, you know.
Yeah, and I think that relates a lot to this question of, oh, are we still playing the Harmony series or this kind of things? That we are when you feel like it, or when the group has interest. For example, this next iteration that is about to happen someday. I don't know what we will do, but I don't think we will probably not play these pieces, but maybe if we want to. But there's not a established thing. Okay, at the beginning of the semester, we always study these pieces, and I think that's very, very interesting that way. Do we want to go ahead?
Well, I was just going to say quickly that, Michael's was much more structured. And one thing to come back to Gustavo's question is, it was often based around who was coming as a guest. Like, he would, like, John Lely would come at the end of a term. And so we'd really spend a lot of the time preparing for the concert, and also to kind of dispel one, unfortunately, very common misunderstanding about performance practice of experimental music is that you don't need to rehearse. I think also the kind of point was to say, okay, these pieces do often warrant, multiple rehearsals that they often don't get, because people are like, oh, well, we can do this really fast. And so, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it's great that works, but often it's like, I think the most worst performed piece on the face of the planet, unfortunately for Christian, is for 1, 2, or 3 people. Now, this is an amazing piece that can be done quickly, but often is much better when people really rehearse, have done it very thoughtfully. And for some reason, I've seen like more bad performances of it than good performances of it, and it's a wonderful piece. So I think there was also this kind of trying to dispel the notion that this stuff could be done, without the same type of care that you would give any other piece. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I was going to say, if you want to start showing quickly some of the pieces that we.
Yeah,
because I think they're very funny, and I think they add to this conversation.
I would like to see it personally.
Yes. Yeah. This is gonna be probably a display of it all, right? Of our
exactly.
seriousness about it, but also about our bad taste. My bad taste. I can be responsible for myself. My bad taste in humor.
So do you want to start with the Barulhão, which is?
Yeah. I mean, no, go. I mean, go as you.
Yeah. Okay. Barulhão, big noise, right? We started basically in this the second semester, actually the first, and it started as a piece very, very the same vein as the others. Was okay. We are. What exactly was there? It was basically we had this idea of simultaneous solos. So everyone kind of made its own solo as a list of events in time, very Cajun in that sense. And okay, we wouldn't share this. We just show up at a day, the last day of the semester, the final week, and play it without knowing what the others would do. And it started as that. And we had the only direction we had, apart from those, is that we had to leave at one time in the piece. We had to leave in this time we had selected. We had to leave that place and go find something to play, some object or some to bring back and play. And and from that it kind of spiraled out of control into madness, basically. And I think it's very, very exemplar of what usually happens with in our group. So if anyone else wants to give a description of we had four occasions we performed this piece, right? So let me find the photos here or the videos.
Yes. Do you have to, because we did not know what each other would do, but we had like we shared like a sort of a general schedule of events with each other. We knew like a week prior to our presentation that so Paulo is going to do something at the minute 15, and then Luca is going to do something at the minute 17. And then Pedro, and this is actually a quote, is going to do something huge at the minute 28. But we did not know what was going to happen. And what Luca said actually is a good thing to keep in mind, because at the first our first ideas were that it does not even need to be a sound event. It just needs to be an event. So this is the sort of
so now I'm sharing this is from the first one, So we had, okay, these are the events that are gonna happen. So my solo, there's an event at 2 minutes, 9 minutes, 16, 21, and 26. The circles, if I recall correctly, are the moment we are gonna leave to get this object, to search for it. So all we had was that before the day. And that was like the only thing we shared. This is from the first one, okay. And then I can show a video of the... This is a video from the first one. I'm not sure. Oh, no, wait. Okay, this is mislabeled, great. Let me... Okay, just a moment, sorry. Why are that true? Yeah, sorry. If anyone wants to add anything while I...
No problem. Just você acha o vídeo e...
Eu não sei o que aconteceu, que ele foi duplicado por algum motivo. Isso da segunda. Tá aqui.
While you do that, I have a very serious question. Is that a Thin Lizzy or a Led Zeppelin poster on the back?
Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
That's Led Zeppelin. That's Hendrix, and there is Pink Floyd and The Who in front of me. It's a very adolescent room, yeah. Okay, I found here the
Roqueiro.
exactly, yeah. And in the up there is some posters more.
AC/DC?
Rockista.
Yeah, it's very rockista, yeah. Okay, it's just... I'm not sure if there's audio going. No. Oh, why is it? Is there audio?
I do not hear it.
Okay,
Did you?
I forgot to
do that
click and share audio. Sorry. Okay, here we go. First time, perfectly. So this is the first. Yeah, this is the first time. Justice Fire.
Can you make it full screen?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so something that's very important that from this piece is that we always work in this table, which is kind of like a communion table, I think, for this sort of ritual. And that is very, very this sort of shared space that is very important for this piece. So in the I don't know if anyone wants to add anything, please interrupt me, because I'm not looking at the...
Yeah, it's a wooden surface that we have a lot of trouble to transport to the garden of the university in order to do this ritual of ours, right? There is this dimension of it to of this table of ours, right?
And yeah, from the first time we did this, I think Paulo officially broke the seriousness, I think, and kind of doomed the rest of the group, because he had a specific event at some time that he was very secretive about. And at this day, he wouldn't tell anyone what it was, anything. And the day he showed up with like this huge traveling luggage and refused to let anyone look inside it. So, okay, this is very kind of, okay, don't think too much about it. It's kind of weird. And sometime in this minute, he takes out wait, sorry. There's video here. Why isn't it showing up? Okay. Now I lost it. Great.
Luca, one suggestion. The video isn't so good here. The speed, he has a lot of lacunes. So I suggest you to show some pics. And
I can. Yeah, the pics are better.
And only the sound, maybe.
Okay. So
because the video isn't well.
Okay. Anyway, Paulo takes from the luggage this. What is the Winnie the Pooh, right? In English. Sort of, I don't know. Paulo has to explain this. Paulo,
that was in your bag? How big a suitcase was it? Oh!
It's very... Exactly.
Yeah, the idea, I mean, if there was any idea about it, I just wanted I just wanted to break any seriousness, actually. This is actually a gift that Magno, who is here with us, gave me as a birthday gift. Actually, we used to live together. He was like at that room, right behind me. And when we went to have lunch, or when we had to go,
this is my favorite moment of my friendship with Paulo.
For any reason, then at some point we noticed this absurd thing in a store that was connected to dentist tools. Because of this, I don't know why. I mean, then we were always like really scared and commenting upon this spool. What is that? Why does it have those teeth? If you run a DNA exam on this, it will probably bring someone from the dead. We were always commenting on things like that. And then at one of my birthdays, Magno, we were having dinner at the room with other friends. And Magno said, "Oh, I have a gift for you."
Just before you continue the story, there's one detail which is very nice, which is the fact that, because this was like Paulo said, it's like a dental supply store by the shopping mall next to his house. And it's the store that is like maybe 2 doors after the entrance. So every time we entered the Tijuca shopping, this store was there, and Winnie from Hell was always there at the, in front of the store. And maybe like a couple of days before his birthday, it disappeared. And I was hoping that Paulo wouldn't notice, that we would pass by and he would not be there at his usual place. So now continue.
Very nice story.
Yeah.
I did not notice that. And Magno even had the idea to try to go into my room as I was sleeping and leaving this pool from hell, so that I would probably die if I woke up during the night. I don't know. But anyway, because it was a list of events that was a part of our solo compositions, I just decided that bringing this out is going to be an event, and then when I brought this out, I can remember like Zé Ricardo looked like he stopped playing. Like, I mean, he just could not. Everyone started to laugh of the absurd of this thing, and it had a bigger impact on the ritual than I ever thought it would have, because for the second season, this picture that is on screen right now is from our second Barulhão, right? So because I have this idea, this is part of what I try to do. I try to, for every session of the Barulhão, I try to bring some of the events that I used on the last one. So it's cumulative in a way. This is just my idea of what a solo for the Barulhão could be. But I always bring Pooh from Hell so that we consider him or it or whatever to be a part of the ritual, right? But what I could not predict is that in the second session of Barulhão, this picture that we have like now online, this is not even close from the most absurd thing that happened.
Yeah, no.
Because
it kind of started a rivalry between Paulo and Pedro to always outdo each other with each Barulhão.
Yeah, it became a ritual of for some of the members. It became a ritual of shock value, I would say.
And so in the second time, Pedro had the event that he was saying, okay, you really have to wait for this. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to, and this is going to be the moment. So, no, not here. We were waiting, okay, and then he leaves sometime in the middle of the presentation. Of course, he leaves and says like 3 to 5 minutes gone. We don't know where he is. And out of the blue shows up the Experimental Musical Center with a bag of scores from classics of the experimental music canon, and just starts giving out these scores to everyone. And yeah, so this is I think there's video here. Oh no, I think this video is just from there's no video of the center, but this is the moment, the emblematic moment from the second time.
I have a GIF from this moment. I forgot to put on this.
Yeah, I think from this point on, like, I mean, I think Barulhão became sort of a Felinesque event. I don't know. This ritual turned into something completely different from our experimental music seriousness. I mean, this is just, and we had someone like changing his clothes during this event, and the fact that someone was changing, Paulo De Lorenzi was changing his clothes in the middle of the garden of the university. This was not shocking at all. I mean, after this Santa thing from Pedro, nothing could survive. I would say that
being naked was like nothing.
Yeah, but Paulo De Lorenzi is here with us. Yes. Yeah. And Mike,
It was, yeah.
This
It was
usually happens at the garden of the university, right? So this is probably the place where you have the most of people passing by in the whole of the university. There are sounds too. Tiago? Seu microfone está desligado, cara.
Opa!
Opa, Tiago.
Estão me escutando?
Não, pô, legal, cara. Você veio aí.
E aí, galera? Cheguei aqui, achei que ia pegar o finalzinho, o negócio tá rendendo, né? Que bom.
Tiago is one of the first members of the chamber of the experimental music experimental chamber music practices, right?
Não sei se foi a primeira turma sua lá, foi?
Foi acho que a primeira de música experimental que a gente começou a tocar as coisas.
Ah, que massa, né? Foi bem no meu início também de universidade, assim, né? E primeiro, dar um abraço aí em geral, muita gente bacana aqui, que me atravessaram ali pela universidade, Mandita, Lucas, Pedro, uma galera boa, né? Acho bem bacana isso. Acho que é super um lugar de afeto, assim, né? Esse negócio do Max, né? Porque a gente fica mesmo com saudade, assim, fica conectado, né?
Fico feliz em ouvir isso.
Não, demais, assim, tipo, sem fazer cerimônias, né? Mas, assim, eu acho que foi um dos lugares mais bacanas de estar ali na universidade, né? De ter passado por ali, porque eu acho que foi o lugar de maior escuta, assim, para o outro, sabe? Que eu tive ali. Eu começo fazendo meio discurso, assim, é isso? Tipo, posso ir falando?
Fala aí, cara, o que você quiser.
Não, pois é, assim, eu sou formado em cinema, né? Eu entrei já com uma graduação lá na Faculdade de Música, né? E eu tinha essa coisa que me perseguia, que eu achava que eu precisava dessa graduação, precisava dessa formação superior em música, eu não sei, parece que aquilo me legitimava de alguma forma como músico, assim, né? Essa coisa, eu já até tenho trocado mensagem com a Amanda aí, né, mano? A gente meio nas crises. E um pouco isso, né, de tipo, dessa legitimação, às vezes, que a gente espera, né, para realizar as coisas e tal, que a gente, numa viagem, né, assim, acha que a universidade vai dar esse lugar, né, e não é, depois a gente vê que não é bem assim, né. E aí eu como era meio um músico lá, perdido na galera do cinema, né, eu falei, vou para a Universidade de Música e vou somar essa formação e tal. Então já emendei, né? Eu saí da faculdade de cinema, já entrei direto na faculdade de música. E como eu já estava trabalhando com som para cinema, né? Eu já tinha feito alguns curtas-metragens, estava começando a fazer longas-metragens, então, também. Naturalmente já me interessava essa coisa da experimentação, assim, né? Porque eu já trabalhava com edição de som, já tinha essa coisa de gravar sons do mundo e levar para a ilha de edição e tudo, né? Então, eu comecei a catar essa galera que tivesse algum interesse ali, né? Em algo parecido. E o lugar mais aberto, assim, que eu encontrei foi mesmo foi as oficinas de Max, né? De música experimental. E inclusive, acho que o Paulo tem um talento muito grande aí de conseguir reunir essa galera, porque é engraçado, assim, né? Mas a universidade, lá na faculdade de cinema, apesar de ter várias questões, também a gente tinha muita abertura para propor coisas e tinha muito esse lugar da criação, né? E na faculdade de música, assim, um dos poucos lugares mesmo, de forma assim, totalmente aberta, que eu encontrei foi ali, né? De um interesse na bagagem do aluno também, né? De saber o que o aluno está afim, qual é o tesão do aluno, né? porque acho que é uma coisa que mexe muito, assim, as turmas em geral eram bem pequenas, né, mas todo mundo muito envolvido, assim, né, muito afim de compartilhar, e era mal barato, assim, participar dos projetos dos outros alunos, né, não era só uma coisa autocentrada, assim, né, eu acho que a gente um embarcava na viagem do outro, assim, e curtia estar junto, né, então eu acho que isso foi um espaço bem importante, assim, que eu acho que até fiquei meio órfão depois, viu, Paulo? Porque eu passei, acho que 2 anos ali, eu fiz 2 anos seguidos, né? E aí acho que você passou o bastão para o Brian, aí eu já não entrei, tinha que fazer outras coisas também. E depois não consegui mais voltar, né? Fui sugado pelas questões práticas da vida aí, né? Inclusive essa aqui que está do meu lado, né? Que
Essa pequena
me levou para um outro universo, né? Mas é isso, assim, aí foi muito legal, porque eu acho que o Paulo tinha muito interesse, tem interesse em cinema, né? Então a gente conseguia bater bons papos, assim. E eu escrevi a minha monografia sobre paisagens sonoras dentro do cinema, né? Principalmente do cinema do Gus Van Sant, né? E aí falei sobre a Hildegard Westerkamp, inclusive.
É incrível o trabalho dela nesses filmes, né?
Fantástico. Na verdade, uma coisa interessante é que ela não fez para os filmes, né? É um trabalho prévio que eles trouxeram para dentro. E eu acho que, assim, eu hoje em dia dou aula de cinema, né? Na Academia Internacional de Cinema, né? AIC. Vocês devem conhecer esse curso ali em Botafogo, já devem ter ouvido falar. E aí é massa, porque eu sempre levo isso lá, porque é um exemplo muito curioso, assim, né, dentro do estudo de cinema, porque ele usa a mesma peça dela em 2 filmes diferentes, né? E aí você pensa, assim, essa influência do som e das imagens, né, essa influência mútua, né? É um caso, assim, de estudo muito interessante, porque está tanto no Last Days, né, que é aquele livremente inspirado nos últimos dias do Kurt Cobain, né? E está também no Elefante, né? Que é aquele baseado na chacina de Columbine, né? Então, 2 filmes completamente diversos, assim, diferentes, que têm a mesma obra da Westerkamp, né? Escolhe aqui qual que seria.
Aquela Portas da Percepção, é isso?
Exatamente, é essa mesmo.
Que
aí... Bom, aí foi o que eu estudei no meu final de curso lá, né, no cinema e tal, e cheguei com essa bagagem na faculdade de música. Eu acho que a única pessoa que se interessou por isso foi o Paulo. E acho isso interessante. E aí foi muito legal para mim, porque acabou sendo um lugar onde o Paulo me trouxe muitas referências também. E eu acho que você estava numa onda, né? Naquela época que você tinha voltado do Japão, com umas gravações de campo também. Coincidiu, né? Eu acho.
Foi bem em cima da viagem que eu fiz, né?
E
eu continuo trabalhando com
você compartilhou
gravações de campo.
Desculpa.
Eu continuo trabalhando bastante com gravações de campo. Na verdade, isso acabou se transformando em cursos também, né? Lá dentro, assim, quase que voltados para isso.
Maravilhosos cursos!
E foi muito legal isso, né? Eu acho que essas coincidências, né? Então, o Paulo já estava nessa pesquisa, até lançou um disco, acho que nesse ano, né? Um EP ali, né? Com algumas gravações, com essas gravações, né? E foi massa, assim, porque, pô, eu vi um cara que tinha o mesmo interesse que eu já estava produzindo também, mas com outro viés, né? Porque eu produzia para cinema, que já é uma coisa que muda bastante, né? E o Paulo já entendendo aquilo como uma obra, e já, né, botando, assim, toda uma carga de leitura também bacana que ele trouxe. Ou seja, foi feito sob medida ali, né? E foi muito bacana, porque já tinha uma galera boa, né? Estava o Zé na turma também, acho que o Henrique. Eu acho que o primeiro ano era só nós três. Éramos três, né, na turma.
Tinha o Antônio, né, que estava
E o Antônio também, que de vez em quando pintava lá. Era uma figura essencial, assim, né?
O Antônio é incrível, né? E hoje em dia o Antônio tem um duo com o Luca, né? É engraçado como essas coisas elas vão se redistribuindo também, né? Em algum momento o Antônio ele me procurou dizendo: eu queria fazer um duo de no input com guitarra. Será que você não se interessa em tocar comigo? E eu pensei, não, eu me interesso, super me interessar, eu me interesso muito. Agora, tem um cara que toca guitarra muito melhor do que eu, que vai, e aí, assim, certamente vocês vão se dar muito melhor por conta disso. E aí, o Luca...
É bem curiosa essa conexão mesmo.
É uma espécie de laço lá daquele primeiro ano com alguém que está trabalhando agora, né? Que eu acho assim, que no fim das contas, eu acho, como o Michael disse, né? Talvez seja as coisas mais, acho que a coisa mais que eu acho mais bacana é quando você consegue cultivar esse grupo de pessoas que tem interesses afins e que são diferentes, mas que conseguem trabalhar juntos e que vão carregar isso para além dos limites da universidade, né? Que conseguem dialogar sobre os interesses uns dos outros, mesmo que não pratiquem, né? A gente teve a oportunidade de fazer uma trilha ao vivo para um dos seus curtas, né, lá na escola. Né?
Isso foi muito bacana, né? Eu participei de 2 anos, né, do Max lá, e no primeiro ano a gente estava então nessa onda mais das gravações de campo, e inclusive tem coisas que a gente fez lá que eu uso nas minhas aulas até hoje, assim, que você propôs, como, por exemplo, a gente fez algumas gravações sem gravar nada, assim, né? Aí tinha uma coisa lúdica, assim, né, da gente sair com o gravador na mão, mas não captar nada e ver como isso já alterava a escuta, né? Então, para mim, foi um certo retornar ao ponto zero, né? Eu que já estava gravando som de cinema e tal, e pensar de uma outra forma essas práticas, assim, né? E aí teve uma apresentação que eu toquei uma peça que eu tinha feito para esse filme, né? Era uma composição com sons que eu tinha gravado lá em Ilha Grande, né? O filme todo se passa lá numa praia em Ilha Grande. E aí eu tinha montado esses sons trabalhados, né? Com uma peça eletroacústica, né? E essa peça foi tocada na nossa primeira apresentação lá. Eu lembro que eu não pude ir, até eu tive algum problema, não sei qual foi a questão, mas eu lembro que foi tocada lá.
Eu não lembrava disso, foi sem imagem, foi super legal, de fato.
E depois, no ano seguinte, a gente fez a trilha para esse filme. E aí a gente, né, performou o filme inteiro, né? Eu acho que o Cassandro estava com a gente lá.
Foi inclusive na série Compositores, se não me engano, que falava na
Foi
época.
na Compositores,
Acho que sim, que a gente o filme apareceu no fundo inteiro da sala, aquela coisa.
Ficou bem massa. Eu acho que tem até alguma foto aqui no meu Facebook, depois posso catar. E aí, além disso, eu também fiz uma performance com guitarra preparada. Acho que no primeiro ano, né?
E o dançarino também, né? Foi uma intro.
Que era uma performance com dança, né? Eu até tenho aqui uma gravação no YouTube, eu posso mostrar, não dessa performance, mas de uma outra que a gente fez. É interessante mostrar? Posso mostrar. Acho que estava em greve a Unirio naquela época, e a gente estava ocupando aquela área ali do bandejão, não foi? Foi isso?
Foi exatamente isso.
Saudade de fazer greve, né, minha filha? Mas aí foi bem legal, né? Era uma galera pequena, mas boa, assim, né? E aí eu fiz essa performance com o Diogo, que é dançarino, ele era mestrando lá da Unirio, parte de performance. E a gente manteve essa parceria, a gente apresentou em outros lugares. Inclusive tem uma coisa muito maneira nisso tudo também, que foi uma festa que a gente fez lá em casa, chamada Infestação, você lembra disso?
Era uma casa ali no Estácio?
Rio Comprido, né? E era uma casa enorme que tinha um ateliê lá atrás, e a gente ocupou o segundo andar do ateliê com instalações sonoras e tal, né? Que eu acho que foi uma extensão do curso ali, né? Porque a galera que foi a galera de Max ali, né? Então, assim, eu acho que também essa coisa desse sentimento, né? De levar essa galera para fora ali da sala de aula, né? Eu acho que sempre teve um pouco esse espírito ali, né? Eu acho que como nunca foi um espaço muito acadêmico, assim, né? Estrito senso, eu acho que sempre rolou assim uma sensação da galera tá junto e a fim de fazer coisas para além ali do espaço da sala de aula, né? Acho que foi um pouco essa a minha experiência lá. Vocês querem ver um pouco do lance da guitarra? Como é que faz para mostrar? Eu tenho que abrir... Eu não conheço essa interface aqui.
Esse é um vídeo do YouTube que você tem aí?
Tem um vídeo do YouTube.
Ali no canto inferior direito da tela, tem uns 3 pontos e um More Actions, não é isso?
Tá. Aí tem aqui compartilhar o vídeo do YouTube, né? Deixa eu ver aqui. Tá. Então tem que pegar o link, né? Só um minutinho.
While he looks for this, if anybody, for those who are here for the first time, if you want to be added to the email list that we have, it's kind of ongoing, put in the chat window, send your email, and I will add you if you want.
Só um minutinho. Opa. Achei, estava achando aqui.
Tá.
Bom, vou tocar aqui para vocês verem um pedacinho. Deixa eu ver se dá certo. Então jogo aqui, né?
Are we supposed to be hearing something now?
I guess.
Yeah, I muted him. I think he has to be muted, but then he walked away. But it didn't work when I just muted him. Thiago, can you start?
Vou pular um pouquinho para frente aqui, só para a gente adiantar.
Beleza.
É meio essa onda aí, só um pedacinho.
Legal.
Eita.
Thiago, você pode compartilhar esse link pelo chat?
Posso, lógico. É um prazer.
Obrigado, valeu. Muito bacana, muito bonito, gostei muito.
Tio, que bom, que bom. É difícil conseguir mostrar essas coisas, então eu aproveitei. Tipo,
Ótimo timing.
Ter público para isso é difícil, né? Postei no chat, vê se aparece aí.
Legal, apareceu sim.
Tá. Agora eu quero sair desse YouTube.
Aí você tem que voltar lá no More Actions e interromper o...
Entendi.
Então, Thiago, obrigado por ter vindo aí.
Que é isso, foi ótimo.
Super legal poder rever todo mundo. Quer dizer, uma boa parte. Gente de épocas tão distintas. Né? Alguém tem mais uma pergunta? Alguém tem... Because we have a lot of other material to show, but I think this is it for today, I guess. Or does anyone have anything to say or to add to the conversation? Or...
I can just say that it was nice for me to see this kind of parallel thread in this other universe that someday I will hopefully be able to participate in.
Yeah, I think this is something nice about this meeting as well. So that we are already establishing connections, so that when you arrive here this is probably the people you are going to some of the people you are going to be around. So
I look forward to it. And I don't have Winnie the Pooh here, but I almost brought you guys a real bear. It was bad timing, actually. It was the first bear that went by in about a week, and it went by right during the video that Thiago was showing, so I couldn't get fast enough. But yeah, we'll have Winnie the Pooh and a real black bear.
Yeah.
One thing I can also say is just before we get off, next a little bit about what's to come, if that sounds reasonable, Paolo, is that next week it looks like we already have confirmed a friend of Mariana from last week. Her name's Alma Laprida. She's really amazing. She'll be for sure joining us on next Thursday, which is the 30th, it looks like. And she's someone who is really fantastic. And I think we've tentatively planned to take the following week off, the 6th, and then come back the following week, which may be the last session before we kind of regroup, but we'll see. So that's like the plan for the next three weeks generally. So
yeah, cool. Gustavo, do you think you will prepare something for us for 3 weeks from now?
Eu vou pensar sobre.
Vai mandar? Pensa aí, mas assim, sem pressão também. Pensa. Ia ser legal se você fechasse o círculo. Né? Então, so that's it for today, right?
Okay, I will stop the recording and then we can wrap up. So thank you guys. Thank you very much. It was really, really great.
Valeu, gente.
Thank you.
Prazerzão, viu? Adorei ver vocês aí participar um pouco.